In this Science World magazine from Catching Air, we're going to read the article called Look Who's Talking. You can follow along on this video or on the copy of the magazine that you have. It was Friday evening, and Stella the dog was at home with her owner, Christina Hunger. The pup was eagerly waiting for Hunger's husband, Jake, to come back from work. Suddenly, Stella heard the rumble of a car engine in the driveway, but instead of heading for the door to greet her human pal, Stella ran to a board on the floor near the house's entryway. The excited pup pressed two of the board's colorful buttons with her paw. "Jake, outside," said an electronic voice. Stella was letting everyone know Jake was home. Stella's owner, Christina Hunger, is a speech-language pathologist who treats people with communication difficulties. Since dogs seem to understand and respond to human language, Hunger was curious to find out what Stella would say if she could speak. Hunger decided to train Stella to use a special device inspired by ones used by people who can express themselves verbally. The apparatus consisted of 4 large plastic buttons that could record and play back sounds. Hunger programmed each button to say a simple word: outside, play, water, and walk, when pressed. Stella is so alert to everything in her environment, Hunger says. With her new communication tools, she was finally able to talk about it. Over the years, Stella's button collection has grown to include more than 45 words. Today, Stella the talking dog is internet famous. She has also started a new trend. All over the world, dog owners are teaching their pooches to use speech devices. Now, scientists want to know, are these dogs actually talking? Human's best friend. The friendship between humans and canines dates back millennia. The many breeds of dogs we keep as pets today are descendants of wolves. Scientists believe that between 15,000 and 40,000 years ago, wolves were likely attracted to human settlements where they could snack on food scraps and take shelter during the cold months. Humans, in turn, would have kept the friendliest wolves around as helpful companions. Over time, humans breed these canines to pass on desirable traits or characteristics such as the ability to understand social cues from humans. After dozens of generations, the animals evolved into a different subspecies, Canis lupus familiaris, or the domesticated dog. Today, dogs' ability to communicate with people sets them apart from their wolf ancestors. From birth, domestic dogs can understand human language. When a person points to a container holding a piece of food, even younger puppies will get the idea that the person is telling them to investigate what's inside, says Stanley Coren, an expert in dog behavior at the University of British Columbia in Canada. But a human-reared wolf that's the same age will just look at your hand. Other studies have shown that dogs also look to their owners for help. For example, when wolves are presented with a puzzle that is impossible to solve, a locked cage with a piece of meat inside, they will try again and again to get the juicy treat. But dogs will give up after about a minute, and look at their owner as if to say, "I could use some help here." Away with words. Scientists agree that dogs are born to communicate with their human companions, but the extent to which canines can understand and use human language is still up for debate. To investigate this, scientists at Eötvös Loránd University in Hungary created the Genius Dog Challenge. The experiment set out to test how many objects dogs can correctly identify by name. One contender, Whiskey, knows the names of more than 100 different toys. So what about dogs like Stella that have learned to use electronic speech devices? Do they really know the meanings of the words they select? Right now, scientists don't have enough research to prove that these dogs are actually communicating. It's possible that the dogs are responding to cues humans didn't even realize they're giving. This type of misunderstanding has happened before. Clever Hans was a famous horse who could supposedly solve math problems by stomping his foot a certain number of times to indicate the correct answer. When psychologists conducted research on Clever Hans, however, they found that the horse was simply watching his human's facial expressions and gestures. Those cues told Clever Hans when he'd reached the right answer. In the same way, a dog might follow their owner's gaze and press the button they're looking at. People might also be looking for meanings in random combinations of buttons the dogs press, explains Clive Wynn, a professor of psychology at Arizona State University who studies dog behavior. "We'd all love to talk to our animals in the same way we would with our friends," says Wynn. It's possible these dogs are pressing buttons to gain attention, to get their humans to pet them or give them a treat, and not because they have anything specific to say. Scientists lead the way. Scientists may soon shed some light on these button-pushing pups. In 2020, researchers at the University of San Diego in California began a study called They Can Talk. Their question, are dogs like Stella using recorded words to speak their minds or just reacting to their owners? The scientists recruited more than 3,500 pet owners around the world to train their dogs to use buttons for communication. These citizen scientists noted when their pets pushed buttons and whether the words made sense in context. Patterns in the way the pets use their communication devices could reveal whether they're pressing the buttons purposefully or at random. Next, the scientists plan to use cameras to monitor a small group of participating pets around the clock. That will help control for human biases, such as the tendency to share only the data that best supports a particular conclusion. It could be years before we truly understand whether dogs can communicate using human language. Luckily, dogs don't need words to express themselves, says Wynn. They have their own language, from barking to wagging their tails, to let people know how they're feeling. It's actually kind of magical that we can understand this species so well, says Wynn. The bottom line is that humans and dogs can already communicate, even without buttons. Go ahead and look at some of the illustrations and captions, some of the sidebars on all pages. Read those yourself, and when you're done, take your paper to your teacher, stamp it off, and get the paper for the second reading.